Alright, so a lot has happened since the last video, so let's get into it. The first thing is that this channel has surpassed 1,000 subscribers, which is just mind-blowing. And I want to thank each and every one of you, and may the information that you're listening to bless you as much as it's blessed me to give it. As the phone rings, pay attention to those little subtlety events, for they do have significance. When we get into hypnosis and NLP and what they call anchoring, you'll discover that these things happen naturally by occurrences like that. The next thing that happened is our good old Uncle Birch had mentioned this channel in one of the latest videos that he put out, which is really cool because I consider Birch one of my mentors. In fact, all of the channels that I mention, RSD Tyler, Darren Brown, Bob Proctor, all of these are mentors to me in some way, of which Uncle Birch at the Sacred Grove is one. Even though there are some big key differences between ceremonial magic and Wicca, there are a lot of similarities as well. Because sometimes I just want to get my spell on, you know? And he has, what, 20 plus years experience? Experience matters because true knowledge is derived from experience. This is why armchair occultists think they have all this knowledge when they do not. They only understand procedure. True knowledge comes from first-hand experience. Why do you think that first-hand witnesses are so important in a court of law? Because without first-hand experience, without first-hand witnessing, everything else is hearsay. First-hand knowledge and witnesses always trump hearsay. And we've talked about the importance of having good mentors. So to have Birch acknowledge this channel was really cool. Not only was that a boost for this channel, but it was also a boost for me personally. So a shout out to Birch at the Sacred Grove. Thank you. Now, you remember the homeless man wins the lottery video that went viral? And I covered that in the lesson on Jupiter and Cancer. And I talked about the expansiveness of Jupiter and how it wasn't finished with this guy yet. Well, the follow-up video had just recently come out. Homeless man gets a home. And I will put a link to that here so that you can view it if you haven't already. Now, when you watch this video, pay attention to the way it makes you feel. It should make you feel pretty good, especially if you were one that actually participated in helping this man get a home. I was grinning ear to ear when I watched it. Now compare that feeling to, say, giving at the office, where you don't know exactly how or even who it's directly helping. And I'm not putting down charitable organizations. However, there are certain tactics that they use to appeal to one's ego that is so far removed from the original intent of giving to help someone that it's a little, well, it's not the spirit of Jupiter, and that's all I can say about that. First, there's the guilt if you don't give. And then there's the incentive prizes, trying to make it into a competition. You know, you can win an iPad or an iPhone, you know, in a sort of contest raffle if you give so much money, to try to make that your reward. No, the reward for giving and helping someone and the spirit of Jupiter, because Jupiter is the planet of charity, is the feeling that you get when you help someone. It should be obvious. And by watching this video, it will help attune you to the true nature of giving and the spirit of Jupiter. And this is important to our money spell. See, these things don't happen to greedy a-holes. There would be no home for the homeless man if he would have just took the lottery money and said, "Thanks, dude," and just took off. It was his willingness to share what he had been given that opened up the door to expansion and the spirit of Jupiter. This is how I approach this channel and these videos. I'm sharing that which I have been given. And this is the frame of mind in which we approach our money spell. Right from the get-go, before we do anything else, it's to share that which we have been given. It's not to get something, to take something, to beg or plead for something for ourselves. We'll leave that to the prayers of the masses. So we don't approach the altar simply to get money. We approach it in a celebration of that which we have already received. The candles, sigil carvings, oils, incense, these are all offerings that we are giving in gratitude for that which we have received. You always approach the altar as if you've already received the thing that you're asking for. It isn't about, "I'll give you this if you give me that." It's about, "Thank you for giving me that, and I'm giving this as willingness to share that which I have been given." Good spell casting, first and foremost, comes from the proper frame of mind. And because we're working with the planet Jupiter in our money spell, we need to assume the Jupiterian frame of mind. I hope this is making sense. Okay, so we have our candle, oil, incense, or your own herbal blend. So what do we do with this? Well, the first thing we want to do is write out our statement of intent. Now, if you have parchment paper, that would be great. You don't have to have that. What I tend to use is a square piece torn from a brown paper bag. And I write in pencil. And I write in script. I do this unless I'm writing for healing. Then I will use blank white paper with blue ink. Almost everything else is the brown paper bag with a pencil. Number 2, if you have it. The correspondences are: square is the geometry of physical manifestation. Lead in your pencil corresponds to Saturn, and brown corresponds to Earth. I guess you could use green, but you're probably going to have an easier time finding the brown paper bag than you are green paper. And so we write out our statement of intent onto this paper, such as, "I will $500 to come to me," or something similar. Your mileage may vary in statement of intents. I think Birch has a video on statement of intents as well. So you write it all out and then sign your name to it. I signed my name to it. I learned when studying consent and contract, which we'll get into down the road, that no document has any validity to it unless it has a signature upon it, thus giving credibility to the document. Can it work without a signature? Maybe. I wouldn't know. I always sign my name to it. If you have a magical name, you can sign that. If you don't, just use your given name. It's perfectly fine. After we have our statement of intent, we're going to hold on to it. This is going to go under your honey jar if you have it, or under your candle if you do not. Next, we want to sigilize our statement of intent onto the candle itself and carve it into it. preferably with a consecrated object. It really doesn't matter what it is as long as it's able to do the job. I think Birch uses a screw or something. I use a little screwdriver made for glasses. As long as it's able to carve into your candle effectively. Consecrating an object is a rite in of itself. I think Birch has a video where he's consecrating his little screw on there. So you can look that up. I don't know exactly which video that is in of his. But it's turning the object into a sacred object that you're going to use only for magical purposes. You don't use it, once you consecrate an object, you don't use it for anything else. To do this, we do the same method as we did with the holy water. We visualize a bright light around it. We declare it to be a sacred object. This could be as simple or elaborate as you'd like to make it. Then we sigilize our candle with our statement of intent with our consecrated object. I also like to put Jupiter's sign on there as well. And now we're going to apply the oil. And we do this with the liberal amount of oil. Now the general consensus on applying the oil is from the ends to the middle to draw something to you, and from the middle to the ends to push something away. Also clockwise to bring something to you, and counterclockwise to banish something away. So in this case, we would want to go clockwise from the ends to the middle of the candle in applying the oil. The important thing is not to get hung up on this and not to freak out if you're putting it on a different way. It's more important to visualize the outcome as if you already have it while you're applying your oil and preparing your candle, because that's actually more important. After applying the oil, we want to apply our blend of herbs or our incense to the candle. Again, we do this clockwise and we rub it all in there and get that sigil to stand out. Now the thing I really like about Birch's candles is they have this little top that pops off, and you can get all your herbs down there in the top of the candle. So you always have something going right there next to the flame. However, be warned that in doing this, you're more likely to set off smoke detectors in your house. This is where the metal lid of your honey jar will really come in handy. I've had things burning on the lid when after the candle melts all the way down and those herbs catch fire. I've also had a candle go Hiroshima on me, where the candle turned into the wick with a foot-high flame halfway through the burning and completely melted everything. The smoke detectors were going off and would have caused a pretty big fire had I not run in there very quickly. Always be mindful of your candles. Never leave them unattended while burning. Now normally the herbs will sit down in the pool of wax and won't catch fire until maybe the very end. That's typically what happens. Why these herbs caught fire in the middle of the candle, I don't know. Perhaps it had something to do with the spirit sigil they had carved in the middle of the candle when it reached that point. Who knows? But don't take it for granted that every candle is going to burn without incident. The times I have almost started a fire are very, very few, but it only takes that one time to destroy everything. So, again, fire safety, kids. Practice it. So, once we have our candles sigilized and dressed with oil and our herbs, it's ready to be placed on our altar, and the spell is ready to be cast, which we will do next time. But in the meantime, I wanted to say that I have been receiving your messages. I just have not had the time to respond to each and every one of them. There have been a lot of good ones which through synchronicity have corresponded with things that I was getting ready to do a lesson on. So those were really cool. Oh, and one other thing that I forgot about the honey jar, an ingredient, you can also add a lodestone. If you don't add it, it's not a big deal. I think I even added mine later on. I just kind of added to it a bit later on, pushed it down in there. A lot of people will hollow out spaces and put them in the bottom of their candles. I just put it in the honey jar so I can get more use out of it. And this will do it for Money Spell Part 2. And I will see you next time. Take care.